So good to see you this morning. Welcome to StoneBridge. And if you're worshiping with us in the comments, thank you so much for joining us today. We are excited about our Millard campus and the things. We're signing a big contract this week, so all this is very real. We're launching a new campus this December at 144th and Q. And people are like, are we moving? No, we're not. Some of you are, but not all of us are. And we're hoping to have 200 adults go with us down there to launch that campus. This Tuesday night at 7 o'clock is a prayer event, and we'd like you to join us. If you want, or you're all interested in maybe joining us on the launch team, 144th and Q in the amazing pizza machine plaza thing is our new building. There's nothing in the building right now, and so if you get to the event, we'll show you that, but there's nothing in there. And we're going to go pray. We're going to pray in the neighborhood. And it's not weird. It's not going to be weird like, hey, come over here and we're going to lay hands. No, we're not doing that. Or, hey, little kids. No. But we do want to get used to the neighborhood. We're going to get and just pray about what's going to happen there. And we're going to launch in December. So we're very excited about that. This is an important week in the life of StoneBridge because we're sending a bunch of junior hires away to camp this week, and we talked about this, right? That 80% of people will make a decision between the ages of 4 and 14 for Christ. So this is huge, big deal this week, and so I want you to pray for the folks that'll be helping at that camp and the campers that'll be going. They'll be open to what God's going to tell them, and I think it's super important that this is happening this week because they're going to go to school in the next, right? And so what a great way to get ready to go to school. We had a whole bunch of our 3rd through 5th graders at camp this past week, and it was an incredible camp. I went up there for a little while on Friday, and it was just great. It was lifelong relationships and friendships get forged at camp. And not only do we connect with God, but we're connecting with others, and it is powerful. And so parents, way to go for sending your kids away. Like that was hard to do, right? And like, sure. And you're already thinking, well, next year, can we talk them into an extra day or something? It's like, I know there was a lot of tears shed on Wednesday as the parents were dropping them into the bus. But it was tears of joy, actually, I think. Like, yeah. Anyway, great stuff this summer here at StoneBridge. We are in a message series called Summer School, and we're going to take a good look and a deeper look into getting to know God. And we launched it last weekend, and so today we're talking about the wisdom of God. I want you to think of who's the wisest person you know? And think back maybe to school, the person, the valedictorian, the summa cum laude people, the really smart people in your school. You're like, and we're like, well, I can't even think. I don't even know who that. I don't even know who that was for my school. I don't know, and it wasn't on me. Think about the wise. Who's the smartest person in the world today? Now, you probably know who that is. Stephen Hawking is. They say he's the smartest person in the world. IQ of 190. Now, I Googled, who's the smartest people, and I got, the top 20 people, or top 30, and I really, after Stephen Hawking, it got a little, I did not know one until I got to number 17, and you might recognize this, Gary Kasparov, a chess player. He was the youngest chess player ever to win the outright world championship of chess. He beat an IBM computer called Deep Blue. Now, he lost the next year to an upgraded version. But he has a reported, his IQ is huge. Number 30, you probably recognize, is Paul Allen. He is co-founder of Microsoft. He owns the Seattle Seahawks, the Portland Trail Blazers, and he has an IQ between 160 and 170, depending on his mood, I guess. I don't know. Number 4 was an interesting guy, Grigory Perelman. He's a Russian mathematician. In 2002, he famously cracked the Poincare conjecture, one of topology's most weighty and complicated problems. I bet you didn't even know that. I did not know that. I didn't even know there was a problem like that. All right. But he solved it. However, the following year, he reportedly quit mathematics and moved in with his mom. So much for being really a smart guy. I don't know. In 2010, he was offered the Clay Millennium Prize of $1 million for solving the Poincare conjuncture, but declined. He said, "I know how to control the universe. Why should I run to get $1 million?" Now, do you think any of his friends would do that's dumber than dumb? Go get your prize. Quit being a smart. No, right? Because there's a difference between wisdom and being smart. So today we're going to take a look at the wisdom of God. And the Bible says that God is wise, which means he cannot be unwise. He can't make a stupid decision. He doesn't make any unwise decisions. Job 9, verse 4, "For God is so wise and so mighty. Who has ever challenged him successfully?" Now, a lot of us challenge God all the time on his wisdom. Because we'll say, "Well, I know better than you. I know better than you on how to handle relationships. I really know better than you on how to handle sexuality. I know better than you on how to handle my money. I know you've said this, but I know better than you." And we've all challenged God on all kinds of issues. But our challenges have been unsuccessful. Nobody can challenge God's wisdom successfully. Daniel chapter 2, verse 20, "Praise the name of God forever and ever, for he has all wisdom and power." Now, there are times when I don't understand the wisdom of God, just like I don't understand the love of God, which next weekend we'll talk about the love of God. But I mean, have you ever thought, if you probably have, like me, thought, well, how can a loving and all-wise God let so many abortions to happen? How can a loving God and a wise God let little children live in extreme poverty? And it would even probably get a little personal. How can a loving and wise God let my mom and dad get divorced? Where's the wisdom in that? Where's the wisdom, right? How come? And we could just go on and on and on because we do question the wisdom and the love of God. I'm sure that Joseph in the Old Testament questioned the wisdom of God when Joseph himself was sold into slavery. His brothers sell him into slavery, which is the ultimate right for brothers. Who has not wanted to sell their siblings into slavery, right? If I can get $5, I'd done it, right? And so they did. They sold, and Joseph is away, and I'm sure he's thinking, what happened here? And where's the love of God now? We've been, right? And now he's sold into slavery, and then he's accused of rape, and he's thrown into prison, and all the while thinking, where's the wisdom of God? Where's the wisdom of God? And yet he's still staying there and trusting God, but I'm sure he has to think. And then when he's forgotten it and all that about, he's stuck in jail, eventually he's released, and he's standing before his brothers who had sold him into slavery. Think about that. He's standing. Joseph now is the number 2 guy in the most powerful nation in the world at the time, and his brothers who had sold him into slavery are standing before him. And he says this, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it all for good. He brought me to this position so I could save the lives of many people." That's an incredible statement. Now, the smartest guy that we know of that's ever walked the planet is Solomon. And here in 1 Kings chapter 4, it says, "God gave Solomon very great wisdom and understanding and knowledge as vast as the sands of the seashore. In fact, his wisdom exceeded that of all the wise men of the East and the wise men in Egypt. He was wiser than anyone else." People come from all over to seek his advice and to pick his brain and to figure out life. And so he was a consultant with all the world leaders, and they came and wanted to know about him. But even in all of Solomon's wisdom, he says, with much wisdom comes great sorrow. With much wisdom comes great sorrow. That's why we oftentimes will say ignorance is bliss, right? Because, right, we don't know, right? But once we know, oh! And so with all this wisdom comes great sorrow. The more knowledge, the more grief, he said. He concluded that wisdom and working hard and having a good time was meaningless after all his study of life. And he went, because he's king, he gets to do what he wants when he wants with whoever he wants. And he indulged in all kinds of stuff and great architecture and art and women and food and travel. And he comes to the conclusion that all of that was meaningless. And he says, if you want to know about life, you need to fear God. You need to fear God and keep his commandments. Now, when we talk about fear of God, he's not telling about being scared of God, but he's talking about that we would be respectful enough to trust the word of God. Respectful, again, humble. You know more than me. I'm going to trust what you say. James chapter 1, verse 5, and this is why the wisdom of God is important. If you need wisdom, which is kind of a dumb question, right? If you need wisdom, and how many of us need wisdom? Absolutely. I mean, most of us are trying to navigate through life and marriage and children and in school, and we don't know what we're doing. And when we bring little Junior home, we're like, and we don't know. And we're like, what, is this normal? Is this right? And so we're trying to figure out in marriage and how do we deal with that. If any of us lack wisdom, okay, that includes us. Ask our generous God, and he will give it to you. And he will not rebuke you for asking, which I think is awesome. Isn't that great that God will not rebuke me for asking a dumb question? Have you ever been on the end of that kind of conversation when you've made a serious ask, maybe in a classroom, and the teacher kind of like, or a coach, or a boss who treat you like an idiot? Isn't it great that God in all his wisdom doesn't treat me like an idiot? Well, that's a dumb question. Anybody should know that. And by the way, how many times you asked me that? He doesn't do that to me. Incredible. If you need him, if you need wisdom, ask God. And then he goes on in verse 6. But when you ask, so we're asking him, but when you ask, be sure that your faith is in God alone. Do not waver. Do not think, well, I know he said that, but don't waver. For a person with divided loyalty is unsettled as a wave of the sea that is blown and tossed by the wind. So when we ask God for wisdom, we ask in faith and humility, and then we take what we get from him and we go, well, yeah, I know, but I don't like your advice. I really don't. I'd rather do it He says, if you do that, then the wisdom of God is not going to help you at all. So what I want us to do is take a little glimpse in some of the wisdom literature today, the book of Proverbs, on some wisdom things. And you can do whatever you want with it. I'm just going to give it. You can trust it or not. But here we go. And this is for college students. Like if you're heading to college, you don't know, it's like, oh, here you go. This is Proverbs 27:14. A loud and cheerful greeting early in the morning will be taken as a curse. Okay, so you're going to college, you get a roommate, and your roommate's a little, they're like partying, having a great time, coming in at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, but you're not, you're trying to do life and navigate through that whole thing and be a Christian and you want to go to class, but you got an early class, and so you think, I'm going to help my roommate figure out life, because right now he's out of control. So you think, I'm going to play Christian music when I get up, and maybe that'll rub off on him. So, he's pulling in at 3 in the morning and you're getting up at 6:30 because you want to get up a little early and get to class. And so at 6:30, your alarm goes off and it's Caleb. Like, yeah, our God's an awesome God. That will be seen as a curse, not a blessing. Nobody likes that. Nobody likes it, right? And again, I would just say, probably the best thing to do if you want to have a good relationship with your roommate is just to be quiet. And I know, because you're going to have to gain an audience, and if you want to try to have influence there, but be respectful of that. Now, this carries on not just for college, but for marriage, by the way. My wife invoked a whole new rule this week. No sarcasm before 7:45 in the morning. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's not really a morning person. So me kind of saying stuff was a curse. I still think it was unfair, and I'm seeking a higher power to mediate that whole deal, but right now it is what it is. Here's another piece of advice from Proverbs. A human spirit can endure a sick body, but who can bear a crushed spirit? Now, again, we can endure like physical stuff, but it is really hard to recover from when our hearts get crushed. Where do our hearts get crushed most often? In the home. little kid's got a bent towards maybe logic, but he's in a home of all musicians. And dad's like, hey, why don't you be a little bit more? And he's like, I don't, and all of a sudden his little heart gets crushed because everybody's trying to make him, and maybe it's just the other way. He's, kind of bent towards music, but we think logically here. We don't do that. It's like, why don't you be more like, why don't you be more like, why don't you be more like? You ever had a coach that kind of belittles you in front of a whole team and crushes your heart, and he thinks he's motivating, but it's, or a parent or a spouse that constantly kind of digs and digs and digs, and all of a sudden your heart, it's hard to recover from that. But I tell you what, if you get a coach or a parent or a boss who believes in you and encourages you and says you can and you got what it takes, you will do what, you'll run through that wall, you'll climb down, you'll do whatever you need to do because that person believes in you and has taken your heart that was scared of trying, and all of a sudden, boom, you're in a situation now you didn't think you could, but somebody says, hey, why don't you try that? And you did, and your heart enlarged. I remember my coach in high school who I was struggling as a tennis player, and I couldn't really kind of get the knack of a good second serve. It's like, he's like, you're good, dude, let's go. And he believed in me, and all of a sudden everything clicked because Coach Trimble said, you can do this. We've all had people hopefully in our lives, maybe it's a pastor who comes and says, you know what, I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but you are so good with kids. Have you ever thought about that's simply them believing in you? Have you ever thought about being a pastor? Because I see in your heart something that's just unordinary there. You have a gift. Kids kind of flock to you. You're really comfortable. Have you ever thought about doing that? It's just simply somebody believing in you. King David, when he was little, had a big and brave heart. No one would take on Goliath, and David steps forward and says, let no one lose heart. Because everybody else was saying, no, I'm not going out there. No. In fact, even David's older brother says, David, that is the dumbest thing you've ever said. But David went on to crush not Goliath's heart, but his life, and they win victory. 1 Samuel 17:28 says, the human spirit can endure a sick body, but who can bear a crushed spirit? Even Jesus' own family didn't believe in him until after the resurrection. Here's another piece of advice from the wisdom literature, Proverbs 22:29. Do you see any truly competent workers? To me, that's a funny statement, right? It's like, nope. I mean, if you're the boss, right? And then somebody says, do you see any truly no, I don't. I said, no. I mean, you probably work in a company, right? And you look around like, but who can bear, all right? So do you see any truly competent? They will serve kings rather than working for ordinary people. Competent workers they're going to succeed. People who work skillfully over time will be esteemed highly by their peers, by their superiors. That's how it works. And you probably can think of people who are incredibly talented, extremely talented, but took shortcuts, and maybe they quit because it got a little hot, they just didn't want to do it. But when you see a person who works hard and steady and keeps going, they rise throughout the company because it's hard to find competent workers. Every employer is wishing this. Every employer is wishing that his employees would just work hard and learn about their job. You think about the folly that takes place every day at the workplace. Wisdom pays huge dividends. Wisdom is better than a pot of gold because wisdom allows you to move forward. Recently, I was watching TV, and a late night talk show host was offering, here was the contest. They would interview people on the street, and they said, would you like a chocolate bar or would you like a silver bar? And the silver bar was 10 ounces of silver, and so they said, we got a chocolate bar or a silver bar. And over again, people said, well, give me the chocolate bar. And I mean, that's just dumbfounding me because at $14 an ounce, it would have been $140. And so you're like, yeah. And they would say this, but you can't eat a silver bar. It's hard to find wisdom, right? Who wouldn't say, oh, I'll take the silver bar, right? But is that almonds? Is there almonds in there? Proverbs 13:20. Here's the last one. Walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and get into trouble. If you want wisdom, you're going to have to make a very difficult and strategic decision to start hanging around people who walk in the path of wisdom. We're easily affected by the people we walk with. That's one of the reasons why I think, it's like, again, we're trying to figure out wisdom stuff, and we have, one of the things we offer here at church is a program called MOPS. It's Mother of Preschool. And when you get a baby, you don't get instructions, so it's like, what are we doing? And oftentimes in the preschool world, like at 2, 3, 4, it's like, what are we doing? And so this MOPS program brings in speakers and people who can help bring wisdom into our lives as moms and dads who are trying to navigate and so go to that. When we offer a class on money management, it's simply because here's some wisdom stuff on how to handle money. And we're like, well, yeah, but I'm in debt. And like, oh, yeah, see, and we'll say this, well, that's the only way I've ever known how to do stuff. Right? Because you watched your parents and you watched them do relationship stuff and you how to handle money and how to handle conflict. And we go like, well, that's the only way I know how to do it. Well, there's wisdom out there that comes from God. And so I encourage you, when you see something like that, go, oh, yeah, we should go to that. Yeah, absolutely. That's why small groups are important because, again, you're going to get around some wise people who have navigated through some of the most difficult situations in their life. Whether it's a death of a spouse or, maybe a child, whether it's navigating through difficult, teenage years, all that kind of stuff gives you some chances to walk with wise people. So when we encourage you, go to a small group, find a class to be a part of. It's wisdom stuff that will be able to speak into your life. Walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and get in trouble. And some of you are like, I totally get that. Maybe you even had a person in your life that has said something like this to you. I know when I'm around them, I drink too much, and I want to stop. But then in the next breath, they say, yeah, but on Labor Day, we're getting together, and like, dude, that's really dumb. Oh, I think I can handle it. And we know at that moment the outcome of that decision to walk with the unwise. I'm strong enough. Huh? It just doesn't turn out that way. Now, you may be thinking, and you look at your life and you go, wow, since for 25 years, I've made incredibly foolish things, very stupid decisions. I've made very bad decisions that damaged relationships, have wasted so much money, shed so many tears, and have lonely and depressed and difficult life. I've drifted so far from God. I have had it up to here with foolishness. Enough of trying to do it on my own. Enough of trying to do my marriage on my own. Enough of trying to do finding meaning and purpose in my life on my own. I'm tired of foolishness. There is a God who is powerful and wise. Isn't it great that he's powerful and wise? He's not just powerful. It'd be terrible to have a God who his greatest attribute was strength. Because then he'd just be a bully. That's why combining wisdom and power is very important. And perhaps, again, the wisest thing that you could do today would be to reach out for his hand of forgiveness. Because we've all done stupid things. Some of them have been sinful. And we're pretty sure that we couldn't even get in touch with the God who's all wise. Because not only is he all wise, he's all loving. And he loves you with an everlasting love. In spite of our stupidity. Right? Just so you know, like a good parent or a good coach or a good boss who believes in you, God believes in you. He does. He truly believes in you. And he wants to pour into your life the grace, but also the wisdom that comes from being in a relationship with him. And he will walk with you. All right, let's pray. We have made some pretty dumb choices at times that have got us into some pretty big messes. We thought we could survive them, but we did a lot of stuff. It just. And so today we want to begin the process, maybe the beginning of a relationship with you that would say, I no longer want to try to get wisdom by the school of hard knocks, but that I would get wisdom from you, because I lack wisdom in so many things. So here today we'll start by trusting your word. In Christ's name, amen.